Before this story begins, if you're new here, hit subscribe and ring that bell, so you never miss a story like this one. 40,000 men, 200 ships, and one island? That should have died in a week. But the men waiting on Malta were not planning to survive. They were planning to make the Ottomans pay for every stone. In May of 1565, the largest invasion fleet the Mediterranean had ever seen appeared on the horizon. And standing against it were 700 knights. The Ottoman Empire had crushed kingdoms, burned cities, broken armies bigger than this one. Malta was supposed to be easy, a tiny rock in the sea, one final obstacle before Europe. But Malta had one problem. Jean de Valette, 70 years old, former Ottoman slave, missing fingers, half blind, and completely unafraid to die. The knights knew the numbers. They knew nobody was coming soon enough. They knew the walls would fall eventually. So they made a different decision. If Malta died, the Ottomans would die with it. Then, the first cannon fired, and the siege began. The Ottomans hit the walls like a flood. The knights did not move. For hours later, 2,000 Ottomans were dead. The fort was still standing, and Mustafa Pasha realized something horrifying. These men were not fighting to win. They were fighting to make the siege impossible. The knights were running out of food, running out of sleep, running out of blades. But they were not running out of hatred. And the next assault would be worse. Much worse. By sunset, the fort was barely a fort anymore. But the flag was still there. And Mustafa still did not control Malta. The next morning, he decided to burn the island alive. By June 4th, Mustafa ordered for siege towers forward. 1,000 Janissaries waited inside. Take the fort, or die trying. The bridge dropped. The Janissaries crossed. And the walls disappeared beneath steel and blood. The Janissaries were the most feared infantry in the world. Cities surrendered when they arrived. Armies broke. Kings ran. The knights did not. Oil poured from the walls. Men burned alive. The towers kept moving anyway. 8 hours. Screaming. Smoke. Steel. And bodies falling into the sea below the walls. By sunset, 2,500 Ottomans were dead. The fort still refused to fall. The knights could not replace their dead. Every loss mattered now. Every body on the ground made the walls thinner. La Valette walked through the ruins himself. No surrender. No retreat. No survivors if the Ottomans entered the city. The knights already knew that. He had been captured once before. Chained. Beaten. Sold like cargo. He would rather die on Malta than return to chains. And across the harbor, Mustafa was preparing the final assault. By June 23rd, Fort St. Elmo finally fell. And the victory felt wrong. 8,000 Ottoman soldiers were dead. For one fort. 1/5 of the invasion force was gone. And Malta? was still standing. For the first time, Mustafa's hand shook. Not from fear. From exhaustion. From rage. From the realization that the siege was consuming his army alive. His sword was still clean. His men were not. So he pointed toward Birgu and ordered the slaughter to continue. By July, the bombardment of Birgu had begun. And for 2 straight months, the cannons never stopped. Walls exploded. Stone became shrapnel. Men vanished inside clouds of dust. Before they even had time to scream, the dust got into everything. Eyes, food, lungs. After a while, the knights stopped noticing. They fought half-blind now. By instinct. By sound. By memory. Families hid beneath the city. Listening. Waiting. Praying the ceiling would survive one more night. She could hear every cannon. Every scream above her head. Every impact meant another piece of Malta was gone. The children still slept. They did not understand how close death was. That was the last mercy Malta had left. She could not fight. Could not run. Could only wait. Sometimes surviving feels harder than war. By July 15th, the Ottomans stormed Birgu, and the sea turned red beneath the walls. The knights had saved their oil for weeks. Now, they spent all of it in one afternoon. He was 19 years old. He had crossed half the Mediterranean for glory. Instead, he burned beneath the walls of Malta. By now, the knights no longer saw men climbing the walls. Only targets. Only obstacles between them. And survival. 1,500 Ottomans died that morning. The walls still held. Mustafa ordered another assault anyway. Even his officers thought he had gone mad. Mustafa stopped sleeping. Stopped eating. Stopped speaking. Unless it was to order more men forward. The Sultan wanted answers. Mustafa had none. Only bodies. Only failure. Only more dead men by morning. The wine spread across the map like blood. Mustafa watched it happen in silence. Because across the harbor, the knights were finally running out of time. August arrived. And Malta became a city of fire. The nights were brighter than the days now. There was no time for funerals anymore. The dead were buried in groups. Sometimes without names. Sometimes without faces. Some nights had not slept properly in weeks. Their hands shook constantly now. Not from fear. From fatigue. Even loading a weapon had become difficult. The body was beginning to fail. The will was not. Every morning began the same way. Cannons. Smoke. Stone breaking apart. And men waiting for the next assault. The churches became hospitals. The hospitals became morgues. And still, the wounded kept coming. Some men prayed to survive. Others prayed to die quickly. The priests stopped asking God for victory. Now, they only asked for one more day. By August 7th, Mustafa launched the largest assault of the siege. If Senli fell, Malta fell with it. The knights waited until the bridges were full. Then they fired. Armor became a death sentence. Hundreds drowned before they ever touched the walls. The harbor swallowed men faster than the battlefield did. And still, more boats kept coming. For 9 straight hours, the battle never slowed. Not once. And then, the old man picked up a sword himself. 70 years old. And still fighting beside his men. The knights saw him fighting. And suddenly, nobody wanted to retreat anymore. The sound of steel echoed through Sengli, like the island itself, refusing to die. By sunset, thousands more Ottomans were dead. And Malta still stood. But the knights had almost nothing left. No food. No powder. No strength. And far out at sea, winter storms were beginning to form. The Ottoman camp was collapsing too. Disease spread through the tents. Food rotted in the rain. And the dead began to outnumber the living in some sections of camp. Some soldiers had stopped speaking entirely. There was nothing left to say. The siege had become survival. For both sides. The storms finally arrived. And the island looked ready to collapse into the sea itself. Every night, the knights rebuilt what the cannons destroyed during the day. And every morning, the Ottomans destroyed it again. By now, their hands were splitting open from labor as much as battle. Some men fell asleep standing up. Others never woke up after closing their eyes. Then one morning, someone saw sails on the horizon. And suddenly, the entire siege changed. At first, nobody believed him. The men on the walls had been waiting too long. Hope had started to feel dangerous. La Valette said nothing. He just stared at the sails. And for the first time in weeks, the old man's face changed. Relief. Tiny. Dangerous. But real. Spain had finally arrived. Not with enough men to guarantee victory, but enough to make the Ottomans hesitate. And hesitation was fatal now. Inside the Ottoman camp, panic spread faster than disease. Some officers demanded retreat. Others demanded one final assault. Mustafa wanted victory. His army wanted to survive. The Janissaries had crossed deserts, stormed cities, faced cannon fire before. But now, they looked tired, human, breakable. The siege had taken something from everyone. Even the victors no longer looked victorious. By September 7th, Mustafa gambled everything. One final assault. Break Malta now, or lose the campaign forever. The knights could barely stand anymore. But they still picked up their weapons. Because there was nowhere left to retreat to. Fear was everywhere now. The difference was, the knights had learned how to fight while afraid. The drums began first. Then came the screaming. Then came the walls disappearing beneath men again. The battle spread into the streets. No formations anymore. No strategy. Only survival. And still, La Valette refused to leave the front line. The knights were no longer defending Malta. They were defending the men beside them. And sometimes, that is stronger than fear. Then something changed. The Ottoman line slowed, then stopped. Then, they began moving backward. After 4 months, the impossible finally happened. The Ottoman army broke. Nobody cheered at first. The knights were too exhausted to understand it. The siege was over, and they were still alive. For months earlier, Malta was supposed to fall in a week. Instead, it became the graveyard of an empire's ambition. The Ottomans lost more than 30,000 men. The knights lost almost everything else. But the island survived. And centuries later, the story still sounds impossible. Because sometimes, history belongs to the people who simply refuse to break.